Alright, so I got this new question, is how to do spawn wave spawning in multiplayer for the multiplayer AI spawn system. Now, um, I'm gonna make a video for this and assume that this is a game, more of a co-op linear game. Because if this would be an open world game, you'd still want there to be some sort of reset, and for now I'm not gonna worry about a reset. I'm assuming this is a game like Left 4 Dead. Something like that. I've worked somewhat on this, but I'm a bit short on time as always, so I'm trying to do most of it live. I made 3 new variables. One is called it's a boolean. It's called start automatically, and its default value is true. So if you create it, you make a new boolean start automatically, you default it to true here. Basically, it's one check we throw in the begin play before the start spawn check logic. So if it's true, we start it. If it's false, then it means that this is triggered at another stage in the game. So then we have spawn points to trigger. That's a BP AI spawn location, so just a reference to itself, and I made it an array. And this is going to be editable as well, so that we have access to it here. This basically means you can assign the next wave, but we'll have a look at it later. And then I made one more boolean, which is look for next spawn point, which defaults to false. So if you make a new boolean, you make it don't make it editable. It's by default it should be false. And then we're gonna do a get from the spawn point. That's the new variables I just made here. And we're gonna see if one is valid. And if it's not valid, we continue. If it is valid, we set look for next spawn point to true. And then we're gonna take this variable, we're gonna use it here, so drag it out. And this is the logic that happens on the server. It checks for spawning or despawning. Before this branch, we're gonna add a sequence. And the sequence will go to a branch. And that is what we use this variable for. So if this is false, then none of the next stuff will happen. And then we'll add a gate. We'll enter the gate. So it's basically just an extension, a new check. And then on the do once times 2, we'll do on the exit then once, we'll do a sequence. We'll copy paste that sequence down for the do once exit 2. And with this we'll open it, and with this we'll close it. So when the AI is spawned, we will perform this check, this little check. And let me see. So out of here, it's entered through here. So what do we need to check? We need to check the spawned AI. I'm actually gonna make a function out of this. I'm not happy that we have to do it like this, but we can. We have to do a for each loop. And you know what? We'll make this into a function. Check next wave with one output of a boolean. Spawn next wave. Now if you want to optimize this, because you know by default this happens 0.75 seconds, it's not that much, but you could optimize it further by putting a do once here and then resetting it later with a delay, or you know. So if the spawn next wave is true, we'll go into in2, because we'll want to call the despawn. Okay, so let me tell you what's going on here. So basically, if you're in a spawn zone, this will check. but a despawn will never be called. So even if you killed all the enemies and you want a new wave to spawn, because you're still in the spawn area, it will never really call the despawn event because it doesn't think that's needed. But because we're doing waves, you'll probably want to do that. So with that said, we now have a way of checking should we already spawn in the next wave even though the player is still in that zone. So you can do a delay of 2 seconds only. Every 2 seconds is it allowed to check if the next wave should spawn, but for now we'll keep it simple. 0.75. I mean, it's not horrible as you're not spawning like huge waves of enemies. It shouldn't be an issue. Now we're gonna create a local variable and call it isValid, and we'll make it a boolean, and we'll make it a normal variable. So default to false. That's good, because then we can do this. IsValid. Yeah, there we go. If it is valid, then we set the variable to valid. That's all there is to it. So let me tell you what's going on. By default, this value, the local variable, is not valid. So we'll go over all the spawned AI and we'll check if they're still valid, if they're still alive. You can do an alive check as well if you want, because then they would spawn sooner. You have to do a cost to the AI master. The cost is going to be more performance intensive, but you can check is that. And if that is false, then do this. So this would be an even faster way of spawning in new AI. But the isValid could technically be enough. Okay, so I'll compare the two. So if this is the method we use, the top one, this will always be true even if there's still corpses in the level. So if you can still see their dead bodies, it means they're dead, but their actor, the character, is still valid. It still exists. So then we basically say don't spawn a new wave yet, because they're still a valid guy. But this way, if we see that hey, the character is valid, we can already check is he dead. And if he is dead, then we won't do anything. But if he's not dead yet, it means he's alive and kicking. So and we still have a valid AI walking around. Now I just noticed a mistake I made in the return note. We should call it valid AI found. Something like that, you know. So in the event graph, we should hook this up to false, because if there's no more valid AI found, that's when we'll want to reset it. So now to test, we can do a print string, and we'll call it spawn next wave. Give that a nice red color, or pink I suppose. Now let's test it out. So we'll walk over there, 2 guys will spawn, pew, shoot them both, and now we should have a spawn next wave. And it's not happening. And we've got no errors. So that's interesting. Oh, I see what's happening. We didn't tell it to look. Oh, it has no valid other points. Okay, well let's add a second point somewhere over there, and then we set that reference, because now that whole system is not allowed to happen because we set it up like that. Okay, but now if we spawn these, there we go, spawn next wave. We get that print string in the corner as soon as they die, basically. That could be nice. Yeah, into. Okay, there we go. Now with that said, it's time to actually allow that next wave to spawn. So what do we do? So here in case all AI died, the spawn point can be reset. We'll track that out a little bit. and we'll do a new check. We can actually do it like this. Look for a new spawn point. If this is true, we can do another sequence. And if this is no, we don't need a sequence actually. If it's false, we just continue normally, and if it's true, I'm going to do for each loop. I'm just going to collapse this to a node to keep overview. Oh, that's the wrong one. Collapse nodes, spawn next wave. Hook this up there, hook this up there. And now we need to call the event on the other spawn point. Tell it to start, hopefully it doesn't crash. So basically what we have to do is we have to call this event. Oh. Go in there. For each of them. And now we shouldn't have to worry about multiplayer functionality because we're only working inside of the already existing functionality. So it's already all taken care of by the server. Even with these changes, they're also all taken care of by the server. So it's nothing to worry about on that side. So now we're telling all of these to do a spawn check. So if this is true, go in here. And then I'd suggest hooking this up to here, so in case you even on accident you still have should respawn on, and you don't want that on for now. And that will pause the timers, and take care of that. So now we should actually trigger the next spawn points. So this one, we say start automatically, we set it to false. And let's just say we'll spawn 10 AI. So the moment we kill 2 AIs in this first zone, the first zone will tell this other zone to activate. And by activating that zone, he will now start spawning AI. So first we'll see 2 guys, we pop them, and then it spawns 20 guys. Look, twice too many, too many, which is an interesting issue to have a look at. Wait, did I say like a crazy number? Oh, I said 10. Okay, well then it works as we expected. Just not as I expected. Okie dokie. So we kill these 2. Pew. And then 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, that looks better. The next 5 spawn in. And you can take this to the next level. So is this spawn point 2? Yeah. So let's add spawn point 3. And then we'll spawn 10 guys. But then we still have to make sure that number 2 has a reference to number 3. That's now all we need to do, really. So we'll walk in, it's 2 guys, shoot them, and it spawns 5 guys. Wave 2. And now they're dead, so now we'll spawn 10 guys. And now you have a little wave spawning going on. What you could do is add a delay here, and you just promote it to a variable delay before next wave. So we can add a few seconds break into that time. Let's say 3 seconds is the default. So we can actually start counting. So we kill him. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, go. There we go. The next 5 spawn. That gives you a little bit of breathing time in between the waves, and you can make this a variable instance so that you can actually tweak it in the world for each of these spawn points. So I hope this has sufficiently informed you on how to tackle a wave-based spawning system for the multiplayer spawn system. Now once again, I'd use this in a more linear co-op game, not necessarily in an open world game. If you want to use it in an open world game, take it to the next step and make sure you reset everything. You don't want a dead level after people played on it for an hour. So yeah, keep that in mind, and good luck with your projects.